Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Working towards the weekend. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up. You were hanging out here with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We got a lot to get to here on this Thursday. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, coming up at 2:15. Luke Johnson will join us talking Saints at 2:30. And we're going to talk a little bit LSU running game. I listened to Frank Wilson's press conference on Thursday, and one thing stood out more than the others about the stuff on the field. So I want to discuss that a little bit as we get into the show a little bit later on today. But for right now, let's crank it up the way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Well, this bye week's interesting. No? I think that's pretty safe to say. As someone who produces content surrounding LSU athletics, the football bye weeks can be a little slow. You don't have an opponent to prepare for. I can't preview LSU's game or pick it coming up this weekend. So you kind of, in your head, before the bye week, are thinking about, okay, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to write about during that bye week? Well, when you fire a coach and then the governor starts talking about it in a press conference, you got a lot of content. And so I realized that almost all of you, I would imagine all of you, is that fair to say? Not fair to say every single person, but a lot of you by now are aware of the press conference that the governor held yesterday, which had nothing to do with LSU athletics. And it turned into that at the end. And that's all that we're going to talk about here, because I want to be very upfront and very clear to start this segment. I have no idea what's going on with our state education system. I don't have any idea about coastal erosion or hurricane preparedness. I don't know about any of the political issues, honestly, that are plaguing the state of Louisiana or that are great strengths of Louisiana. I don't know a ton right now about the insurance game. Been out of that for a long time. So, as far as what the governor does day to day with all of the issues around our state, I don't really know a lot about it. I sit here and I talk about sports. And so I never deal with the governor. I don't watch his press conferences. I'm just not all that concerned with the things that go on in our politics. We've got a phenomenal news talk station one floor below us, Brian Haldane, Moon Griffon, the whole crew down there. It's great. If you want to hear about politics, you're absolutely free to go and listen to them. You want to hear about sports, you can hang out with us, and that's generally what I'll do. But yesterday I crossed over, and it was unavoidable. And I listened to what Governor Landry had to say, and my biggest takeaway from what he had to say was disappointment. I was disappointed that the answers came so quickly. I was disappointed to even start this segment. I was disappointed that the question wasn't just deflected. We're not here to talk about LSU athletics. We're not here to talk about the football coach. We're not here to talk about the athletic director. I'm here to talk about the task at hand, youth nutrition, and we'll discuss those at a later day. That's what I would have liked to have seen. But instead, you saw a very emboldened, very impassioned, very demonstrative governor speaking about LSU's football coach and athletic director. And in my opinion, humiliating the athletic director, Scott Woodward. That's my opinion. Scott can feel the way he feels. The governor can discuss how he wanted that to be interpreted. But for me, for the governor, without the athletic director president, to come up and say that he will not be involved in hiring the next football coach was a shot at the athletic director that I don't feel like needed to be lobbed. That's my opinion on that matter. And then you get into the nuts and bolts as that continued. And I wrote a column at louisianasports.net, and I had issues with some of the statements that the governor made. I had an issue with the governor suggesting, and first of all, the phrasing. When he starts with, let me tell you something. The guy that's here now that wrote the contracts cost A&M $70-something million. Right now, LSU's got a $53 million liability. The let me tell you something, it's just it's so condescending in my view. And to start that way, and then to suggest that Woodward was the one on the hook for the $70 million at Texas A&M, it's just a half-truth. Like, Scott Woodward did hire Jimbo Fisher to a 10-year, $75 million fully guaranteed contract. And then 3 years later, after Jimbo had a great year at Texas A&M, Ross Bjork extended that deal and increased the buyout by double. And that was not presented yesterday. It was just, hey, Woodward's responsible for this massive buyout at Texas A&M. Well, it's misleading. It just is. It's misleading. And I have an issue with the governor saying, I'm tired of rewarding failure in this country and then leaving the taxpayers to foot the bill. I believe that to be misleading. I do. I've got the contract for Brian Kelly right in front of me. It says, liquidated damages for termination by LSU without cause. LSU will pay employee, Brian Kelly, and company liquidated damages in the amount of 90% of base salary and supplemental compensation, which would have been payable to the employee and company for the unexpired term, plus any prorated longevity compensation for the year in which the termination occurs. So technically, if Governor Landry, who is an attorney and knows far more about contractual obligations than I do, wants to get up there and say that the taxpayers are on the hook for the buyout, he can say that and point to this. And he can go on Pat McAfee's show, which he did today, and say that the taxpayers are on the or to foot the bill for this. He can say the taxpayers are on the hook because it does say here the contract is with Louisiana State University. Louisiana State University is funded by the taxpayers. He can lean on that. What do we know as I begin to editorialize here from a sports perspective? We know that LSU athletics is self-funded. We know that the Tiger Athletic Foundation is an arm of LSU athletics that collects private money from donors, and that when there's an opportunity to pay a coach, when there's an opportunity to buy out a coach, Tiger Athletic Foundation, far more often than not, I would dare say almost always in recent times, comes up with that money. WDSU, reputable news source in New Orleans, reported that one family stepped up to foot the lion's share of that bill. I'm here suggesting it would be shocking to me if the taxpayers in Louisiana State University paid Brian Kelly $54 million. If the attorney wants to point to this contract and say, LSU's on the hook, I'm telling you, they're on the hook. Like, he can do that, and he would be correct in that assertion. But as he said on the Pat McAfee show, unless someone steps up. And if you want to play that legalese game, you can. But in my opinion, as I editorialize, that was designed to tell the people of Louisiana, like, you're on the hook for this because the athletic director signed this contract, and you're going to have to pay for this. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe private money will take care of that buyout. And so I believe that that's a half-truth. I believe that that is disingenuous. And he continued to speak about the agents and said in a quote that, first of all, he said, here's what y'all reporters need to do. That's how he started the answer. It's what you need. Here's your assignment. Y'all need to start looking at who represents all these people, these agents. If I'm not mistaken, Woodward's agent, Kelly's agent, Texas A&M, they're all the same agents. It's ridiculous. Well, if you want me to talk about that, I checked with Jimbo Fisher today. His agent is Jimmy Sexton. Brian Kelly's agent is Trace Armstrong. Now, you heard, if you were on the McAfee show today, Governor Landry went on and said, look, Brian Kelly's agent and Scott Woodward's agents are the same. I have no information that says that Trace Armstrong represents Scott Woodward. That's not public, and I could not get anyone to confirm it or not. And perhaps that's true. And we will get to a point here where I do agree with the governor that these buyouts are a little ridiculous. And that's the crux of what he is suggesting, I think, at Scott Woodward's expense. But LSU's not alone here. Penn State's doing it. Florida's doing it. Florida State's about to do it. Auburn does it every 20 minutes. And I agree that these contracts are a little out of hand. But I believe the way the governor went about it was disappointing to me. It was disappointing to me to make a scene like that in a press conference not designed for it. It was disappointing to me to treat Scott Woodward like that. It's disappointing to me that he comes back 20 hours later and he's on the Pat McAfee show and he's giving what I believe to be misleading information that is factually true on the document, but we all know not to be exactly accurate. And the bigger part of this is what happens moving forward. Because you've cut the legs out from Scott Woodward, who I think it's reasonable to suggest at this point is not going to be involved in the hire. The governor said that. probably won't be employed. That's a guess on my part, but I think it's rooted in some truth there. If you heard yesterday's press conference, you don't have a university president yet, and you're about to go on a coaching search. And the governor says that he's going to put together the board of supervisors, which he helps appoint. Not all of them are Landry appointees, but some of them are, and there will be more to come. That they're going to put together a committee to go hire the coach. Well, if that's the case, and I'm just taking him on his word, that the committee from the board of supervisors is going to go hire a coach. That's what he said. That's not the way it usually happens. An athletic director usually hires the coach. And then when the athletic director hires the coach, he works with the coach, fosters that relationship, and helps the program move forward. If the committee does it, and then the new president goes and hires an athletic director, which those dominoes could fall in that direction, well, now you've got a coach who doesn't know who he's going to be working for when he's hired. And there may not be that great relationship because the athletic director wasn't the one that hired him. So now, does the coach really want to come work there? If you'd assume that the athletic director is going to be put in, I don't know if we have a great relationship. He might, at the drop of a hat, decide to move on. Do I want to take that job? Penn State's open. Florida's open. It's just a dysfunctional ecosystem to hire a coach right this second. Now, if LSU appoints a president in the next 10 days, and that president goes out and hires an athletic director in 20 days, and that athletic director who's got contacts around the sports decides that he's going to go and conduct that search and hires a coach, and all that falls into place, we'll discuss that on this show. That would be more functional. But right now, what you've got is no football coach, an athletic director who's had his legs cut out from under him, no system president, and a governor going on the media tour and kind of airing all the dirty laundry. And that's disappointing to me because I just don't find it to be that functional. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go to every national outlet that's like, whoa, did you see what the Louisiana governor did? You see that? And I don't find it to be a term of endearment. All I know right now is that the governor's got his fingerprints on this, and he's all in on making sure that this is done his way. He's talking about on the Pat McAfee show, crushing the can, not kicking it down the road, crushing the can. He may crush the can. It may go great. But right now, I'm looking at this, and I am, as a Louisiana citizen and certainly as a fan of LSU and someone who covers this athletically, disappointed in the way that this has gone down in the last 24 hours. None of this happens. None of it. If when Glenn Guilbeau stands up and asks that question yesterday at the press conference, if the governor just says, oh, I appreciate the question. Right now we're here to talk about something else. I'll have comment on that further at this time. We're excited about the future of LSU football and the university as a whole, and I'll discuss that later. That's all that really needed to be said. But instead, we're criticizing Scott Woodward's career. We're suggesting that the agents are in collusion. We're going out there suggesting that the taxpayers are on the hook and that they're going to be the one paying this buyout. And it just, to me, rubbed me the wrong way. It did. And I haven't found a lot of opposition to that. Now, I'll be the first to stand here and tell you, as I do regarding so many things that I cover and talk about, I reserve the right, and often do, change my tune if I get different information. But right now, with what I've got in front of me and the phone calls that I've made today, this just feels messy. It feels messy. And sometimes messy's good and gets stuff done, and sometimes messy really, really spirals things out of control. I am not even willing to speculate what that looks like going forward. But right now, I'm just disappointed at the way things have been handled in the state and with that university to this point. You've got a buyout to deal with Brian Kelly. You've got an athletic director whose future is very much in limbo, and we'll start to get answers pretty quickly. Most people in the political realm feel like an LSU president is going to be named very, very short order. Maybe today. And then we'll see what dominoes fall. I'm just disappointed the way that it's gone. That's our open to the show here. We're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Got to tell you, it can be stressful Christmas time deciding what you're going to buy someone. Especially maybe you're a corporation, you're a business, you like to get things for your clients. How about you call Sean Sagrera, say, hey, I'd like to buy a whole animal. I'd like to buy a half side, and I'd like to take that, have you package it for me, and I'll give that to my clients. Premium Angus beef to your clients. They will be thrilled. Fillets, ribeyes, strips, chucks, roasts, skirts, all of them. You can get those packaged. Sean will help you every step of the way, and your clients will be thrilled come Christmas time. But hey, they got to be aged, right? Got to be aged 35 days, maybe 45 days in this case. So you want to make sure you make that phone call to Sean right now so that he can age that beef, make sure that it's packaged and ready to go for your clients in December for Christmas. Sagrera Farms brings you our Thursday shows each and every week. Come back, let's talk some LSU run game next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is that website. Looking to hang out. Weather's a little chilly out there right now. Can't hit some golf balls maybe on the range. Maybe it rains. Maybe there's not enough grass on the range where you're trying to work on your game. Wintertime's tough, and it's coming. Swing Easy Golf Club is a spot you can spend December, January, February, our coldest months, hitting some balls inside, working on your game, so when springtime rolls around, you are ready to go. They've got incredible technology there with the ability to track your ball, to show your swing speed, to show your launch angle, to show your carry distance, to show the slow motion impact of your golf club on the golf ball. Awesome technology at Swing Easy Golf Club and a great spot to work on your game. So go by and see them at Seagan near Perkins. If you do that, you can sign up for a membership, get you some great perks over there. Talk to them about it. Check it out online at SwingEasyGCBR.com. It's Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Off and running here. In about an hour, we'll talk to Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, and we will chat with Luke Johnson, covering the Saints, in hour number 2 as well. I do want to talk about some LSU football here on the field because they do have to play 4 more games. They're going to go to Tuscaloosa a week from Saturday. They're going to play the Arkansas Razorbacks the following week. Then you'll play Western Kentucky, and they'll head up to Norman to wrap things up here. And I'm not sure how that's going to go. I honestly don't. I was asked that earlier today on SEC This Morning. Like, what do you think? And, like, Peter Burns was making the case that potentially LSU could win them all. Like, if they could go to Tuscaloosa and win, then they can win them all. And I was like, yeah, well, that's true. I just don't know if I'd bet on that currently. But I'm curious what it looks like. One thing I'm not curious about, I'm convicted in this. They're going to run the ball. I don't know if they're going to run it well, but they're going to run it. I was listening to Frank Wilson's press conference, wrote a story up at LouisianaSports.net, and he said, quote, there's going to be a huge emphasis this bye week on running the ball. And then he kind of chuckled and he said, I promise you we will run the ball. And then he continued, I think it complements us and allows us to be much more effective in the pass game where we have tremendous weapons that we haven't utilized to their full potential. The running game was Joe Sloan's biggest undoing. I don't think there's any way you could argue against that. Y'all realize there's 136 teams in D1, right? 136. LSU currently ranks 125th in the country in rushing offense. It's almost November. 125th in rushing offense. That is dead last in the SEC for the second consecutive year. So for the whole time that Joe Sloan was here in Baton Rouge, LSU was the worst of 16 teams in the conference in running the ball. Now, some of that's on Sloan. Some of that's on the offensive line. Some of it's on LSU not winning as much as they should and not running the ball late in games. Like, there are pieces to that pie, but ultimately it's got to lay at the offensive coordinator's feet. When you cannot run the ball at all, that's a massive problem. And I would also suggest that the yardage is not even the biggest issue. LSU runs the ball 28 times per game. I mentioned there's 136 FBS teams, 136. LSU is 134th in rushing attempts per game. San Jose State runs it fewer times per game. Middle Tennessee State runs it fewer times per game. Those two teams are a combined 3-12 on the season. Like, that's just inexplainable. You cannot forge an offense with 4- and 5-star offensive linemen, a 5-star tailback, a 4-star tailback, fifth-year senior tight end, and you don't run the ball at all. So Wilson has made a change here. You're going to go to Alex Atkins calling the plays. He's an offensive line guy, tight ends coach on this team, but he's an offensive line guy. And I think you're going to see LSU run the football. Another quote from Wilson. He said, "At times we've done it. We want to do it more consistently. If we do that, it'll allow our team and our offense to be much more effective." And he's right. Like, in the first half of the A&M game, like, I feel like we didn't even talk about the A&M game because Monday we're talking about the coach being fired. And then Wednesday, you've got the athletic director fallout. And, like, so we just haven't spent a lot of time on this game. But Harlem Berry and Caden Durham, in the first half of the A&M game, 86 yards on 11 carries. 86 yards on 11 carries in the first half. That's almost 8 yards a pop. I can do that math. Not my strong suit, but I can do it. 11 times 8, 88. They had 86 yards, almost 11 yards a pop for this group. Of course I botched that. 11 carries, almost 8 yards a pop, not 11 yards a pop. Math, not my best. But the point remains, 8 yards a pop. And then Harlem Berry touched it one time in the second half. Like, that's not right. I can't sit here and suggest that LSU simply cannot run the ball if you average 8 yards a carry in the first half and you don't ever run it in the second half. And I understand that you could say, well, the game got out of hand. In the fourth quarter, you're down 3 scores. That's true. But you had a whole third quarter, and Harlem Berry touched it one time. Like, I was looking at his runs, and it wasn't even that he busted off a 51-yarder to get to that number. It was 4, 7, 11, 6, 4, 9. And you saw, if you're just watching the game, you saw Harlem Berry breaking tackles. You saw him making cuts. You saw him being patient, getting up the field, getting into the end zone. He just went away. I like the left side of that offensive line with Kern at tackle, with Eccles at guard, and with Moore at center. I don't know about it in pass protection. It's probably not great. But as far as running the ball, those guys are physical. Like, that's a physical group of guys. Kern's a true freshman. Eccles, second year. Moore, fifth year or fourth year anchor there. Like, those guys can move some people. And LSU just went away from it. Now, the question becomes, how much of Michael Van Buren do you use to accent that running game? How much of Michael Van Buren do you use to get in that wildcat, to do some read option, to do something a little bit differently? Because that just didn't happen for LSU earlier. And Brian Kelly said in a press conference, like, I'm not going to take Nussmeier off the field. And so you knew that you weren't going to get Van Buren. And at this point, I think it's easier to get Van Buren on the field, not because you're looking at next year. That's not why I would do this. Everything that Frank Wilson, Alex Atkins, this staff does for the next 4 weeks needs to have an eye on the next 4 weeks. Any of these coaches could be sitting there walking papers. Any of these players could transfer, go to the NFL, graduate, whatever. There's no point in, like, developing guys for next year. You don't know who's going to be on the team. It needs to be done for the next 4 games. And if you're looking at Michael Van Buren, maybe he gives you something. And your goals for the season are essentially off the table, so it's not a huge offense to Nussmeier to take him off the field for 2 snaps. See what you can do running the ball. Trust me, the guy's getting lit up like a Christmas tree most weeks. Sure, he'd be okay taking a couple snaps off. And Wilson said he left the door open for that. He said, Garrett's our starting quarterback. He gives us an opportunity to be efficient with our offense. But I think Michael has a skill set that adds value to our football team that will be called upon that could help us win the game. At the end of the day, we're going to do what it takes to win the game. Garrett Nussmeier is our starting quarterback. But they leave that door open for Van Buren to have a piece in this. And I'm for that. Make the defenses prepare for 2 different guys. Make the defenses defend 2 different things. And if that helps you in the running game, with giving Harlem Berry more touches, with getting Caden Durham more involved, with committing to that more, I'm for all that. All that sounds good. And to go back to the start of this segment where I was, discussing it, it's like, I don't know what the emotional level is going to be of this team. I don't. I don't know what the next 4 games from a win-loss perspective is going to look like. I don't know how good the defense is, especially if Weeks comes back. But I'm confident in saying, based on Frank Wilson's answer on Tuesday. Got that right?
Well, Frank Wilson, when he had his press conference?
Tuesday. Is that right? Yes, that's right, because I was at home doing it. Tuesday. He said, we're going to run the ball. And I believe it. I believe the running backs coach, who is giving play calling duties to an offensive line coach, is going to run the ball. And I think that's a positive thing for LSU as we move into the final 4 games of the season. We're here on a Thursday, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Come back with more. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show. This is The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef brings you our Thursday shows. About, let's do some quick math there. I can handle that. About 42 minutes away from Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. We'll also talk to Luke Johnson about the Saints, the bottom of hour number 2. Let's talk about those Saints as they take on the Los Angeles Rams coming up on Sunday. And I talked earlier this week about the ridiculous front that the Rams have. And I'm going through Ross Jackson's piece on LouisianaSports.net. It's got a great little intro to the Rams. This is a group that is really difficult to deal with. I did an entire segment on it back on Tuesday's show. But Jared Verse has been phenomenal. LSU fans that are listening to us remember him from his days at Florida State. Byron Young has had an awesome go of it. Those two guys have 13 sacks through 7 games. And look, they're stout in the trenches. There's no two ways about it. So LSU do that all the time. The Saints' ability to hold up against that front is paramount in this game coming up on Sunday. My confidence level in that, not great, but it's paramount. Now, you look at the guy that is on the other side of the ball for the Rams, Matt Stafford. It's crazy to say this, but, like, he's getting some MVP buzz. And Ross writes this on LouisianaSports.net. Like, Baker Mayfield came out like a house on fire. We saw him last week. It had been struggling. He wasn't great against the Saints last week. But you look at Stafford, like, he's a guy that you could look at with some buzz there. He's got a great coach. He spreads the ball around. He frequently, it seems like, throws for 3 touchdowns in games. And right now, this year, you're talking about 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns against 2 interceptions, completing 63.4% of his passes. That's a lot of numbers, but that touchdown interception ratio is 17-2. That'll play in the NFL. And I think, to me, it's just a commentary on how good Sean McVay is. I realize that we probably undervalued Jared Goff when he was there and took them to that Super Bowl. You're like, well, yeah, first pick, but, like, is he that good? And now he's just played so well with the Lions. So it stands to reason that, yes, Stafford and Goff are good quarterbacks that McVay has been able to coach, but it also stands to reason that guy is one heck of a football coach developing quarterbacks, calling offense. And Stafford is still got the fastball, but he's older. He's held together by duct tape here. He's constantly dealing with injuries and back issues and the whole thing. It's interesting watching him and Clayton Kershaw try to get to the finish line. And Kershaw comes out there for the Dodgers, and he's pitching an extra innings in a huge game in Game 3. And Stafford's getting some MVP buzz. For those that aren't aware, they played on the same Little League baseball team, and they're both, like, right there at the end of their rope, but they're still functioning as high-level pieces to really good teams. And Stafford has been awesome to this point. And he's throwing the ball to Puka Nacua likely this week. Hasn't had him. Had some injury issues. Had an ankle deal that sidelined him in Week 7 against Jacksonville. But even without him, Stafford diced him up, threw 5 touchdowns, and was great. But you want Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams available if you're Matt Stafford, and it appears they're going to get him. So the Saints secondary is going to be up against it in this game because you've got a really good coach. You've got a veteran quarterback who has seen everything you can throw at him, and he's getting his complement of weapons back in this game. So as you look at this, it's up to the Saints, a lot young corners, to be up to the task against pros. I mean, I don't know what else you would call Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua other than like absolute pros. I don't think I would suggest either one of them has elite game-breaking speed. I wouldn't suggest either one of them is some sort of freakish Randy Moss-style athlete that just can't deal with. It's not a lot of highlight reel catches. It's just, I know how to beat you off the line of scrimmage. I know how to get open. My quarterback knows where I'm going to be, and I can catch it. And, like, it's just clinical to watch the Rams go about things. And you've got, for the Saints, a young secondary that's kind of been iffy. They were better against Baker and the boys last week. No Mike Evans. No Chris Godwin. But this is not that. This is a whole new challenge for New Orleans. And then you flip that completely around, and you look at the Saints quarterback situation where you're starting a first-time starter, Tyler Shuck, against a retooled secondary for the Rams. They traded for Roger McCreary from the Titans, an Auburn product for those familiar. Got a second-round pick thrust into action immediately to help where they've been a little bit struggling. They got injuries. Darius Williams has got an injury. Like the Rams secondary is being retooled a little bit. It's on the Saints offensive front to give Shuck some time to go work on that. And the last piece here is interesting for Ross. I think about this more for the college team that we cover, the college games that we analyze, as opposed to the NFL. NFL is just so week to week, so week to week, so week to week. College, you got prime time matchup with the number 5 team in the country, then you play a directional state school. It's like, it's just not the same. In the NFL, it's the same every week. And Ross writes that he questions whether or not the Rams might be in a look-ahead spot. You got a Week 9 game against the Saints. After that, San Francisco, big divisional game, teams with winning records. Seattle, big divisional game, team with winning record. And then Tampa, who, you know, theoretically, we're too early for this, but, like, you could be fighting for home field advantage against them. Too early to know for sure, but you could. So that's a monster 3-game stretch for these Rams. And here come the little old Saints. Saints 1-7. Saints starting a quarterback who's never seen the light of day. Saints got a head coach, looks like he is in high school. It's in home. SoFi is not exactly the most rocking venue in the league. Gorgeous, not intimidating. Like, we getting up for this? We getting up for this on a Sunday? I don't know. I think so. It's the NFL. Most of the time, you're going to get a team answer the bell. But I can't swear by it. I think it's a reasonable point that Ross makes. And now it's kind of got my antenna. The Saints certainly have nothing to lose. I mean, you're going out there, nothing to lose. Playing free, wheeling and dealing. Kellen Moore wants to go for a little 4th down early. Do it. You want to fake a punt? Stuff like that doesn't happen in the NFL very often. It's more of a college thing. But, hey, you have nothing to lose. You are wounded dog. And I'm curious to see if that actually is a talking point. So, interesting stuff from Ross there. He kind of writes in order. Puka Nacua back. Rams retooling their secondary. Are the Rams in a look-ahead spot? Matthew Stafford getting some MVP buzz. And the Rams, one of the best defensive fronts in all of college football. It's a daunting task for New Orleans. There are no two ways about it. But to me, as I look at it, like, you got nothing to lose. So go out there and let's see what you got. Jordan, you're listening to me rant and rave here. What do you think?
Well, I will say this. I do like the idea that this could be the fake punt game. This feels like a fake punt game. Like, just every.
I mean, how many fake punts you see a week in the NFL? Like, maybe one? Like
not
college,
many.
you turn it on, they're wheeling and dealing all day.
But this is the fake punt game. You know, just, hey, we have nothing to lose. We have nothing to lose. But I do like that this is a 3:05 kickoff. So by around this time, if it doesn't go well by the first quarter, I can take that nap. Like, this is a good nap. This could be the nap game.
You hate to see that.
Yeah, I know. Look, man, look.
You don't want a November nap game,
no,
and we'll be in November at that point. That's a tough scene.
It's a tough scene, but it's the reality. I would be fake if I came on here. Yeah, guys, I think the Saints are gonna go and win it all. Like, no, all right, this is a good nap game. It could. The Rams don't really blow anybody out. Like, they win games. They're just good. Yeah, they're just good. So it's. You got Tyler Shuck first start. I can't just be like, oh, yeah, I think Shuck is going to.
This has got to be among the biggest discrepancy in starts between the two quarterbacks.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean
Brady surely saw somebody in their debut, but, like, Matt Stafford is 40.
Yeah.
And
if I'm not mistaken, did Matt Stafford, was he at Georgia like 2008, 2009?
His last year at Georgia was 2008.
Yeah,
they came to Tiger Stadium and scored 1, 2, 900 points.
Yeah. So the problem with that is that means Tyler Shuck was in the 3rd grade or 4th grade. That's kind of a problem. That's kind of a problem. And then at the same time, you got Cooper. I was about to call him Cooper Kupp. You got Puka Nacua back, Devontae Adams against a very, 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 very shaky secondary. Very hot and cold, super hot and miss. So
the defense is just it aged
abysmal.
out. It aged out. They traded some guys. I mean, they look, to their credit, trading Marshawn Lattimore was the right thing to do because he stinks now.
That was the right thing to do. That was probably one of the best moves Mickey made in the last couple of years.
Give Mickey a lot of credit for that move. Would you just say how good a move that was? Say, Mickey, that was really good work. I want you to say it out there.
I can't even do that, Hunt.
Come on.
Only way I can do that is if Quincy Riley becomes an all-pro. Like one of these guys that were the picks, they got to become an all-pro, then I can say that. That was a good move. Also, Mickey's second best move was missing out on Deshaun Watson. So, I'll give him a little credit on that.
Mickey, I think we're finding this guy knows what he's doing. He's got it turned around.
Traded
Marshawn, didn't take on Deshaun Watson. Lots of good moves from Mickey.
Mickey, Willie Green, they're just the rock in my shoe. They need to go.
We're going to talk about Willie a little later, unfortunately for you. Because
come on, Hunt, man. I go through enough abuse.
Well,
okay?
You're going to get some more. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll come back, close out hour number 1 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Give you America's best warranty. Best in class with their warranty. Peace of mind is so important. You drive off the lot in that Genesis. The second you drive off the lot, powertrain warranty, 100,000 miles, 10-year. New vehicle warranty, 5 years, 60,000 miles. How bummed do you get when you realize you got to do something to your car? You see those dollar signs, ting, 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 ting. Go by and ask the team at Genesis, what all does this cover? They will give you that information. It is unbelievably comforting to know that that's under warranty for that 5 years, 60,000 miles. You've got your 24/7 roadside assistance, your complimentary scheduled valet maintenance. We like all of those things because we like the folks at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Go by and see them. Airline at PQ. Find that inventory online, GenesisofBatonRouge.com, GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Shout out to Sean Sagrera at Sagrera Farms. Some of the best beef in America, and it's right here, just outside Baton Rouge, 30 miles. If you're a business owner, you've got clients, and you're thinking, what am I going to get the clients this year? Gone with the cigars, bottles of wine for years and years and years, and feel like that might be a little bit stale. Got an idea for you. Sagrera Farms. Call Sean up. Say, hey, I got clients. Can I get a side of beef from you? And then can you package it for me so that I can get this product to my clients, give them a wonderful Christmas gift of fillets, ribeyes, flanks, ground beef, chuck roasts. And Sean will be like, yeah, come on out. I'll show you the beef. We'll dry age it 45 days, get that packaged up for you, put it in lovely gift baskets, and get that to your clients. It'd be an amazing gift from your company to your clients. All you got to do is call my guy Sean Sagrera, who I talked to about an hour ago. Give him a call. His number, of course, is 225-719-1723. 719-1723. It's Sean Sagrera at Sagrera Farms. I was thinking about this earlier. I'm a little hesitant. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little hesitant to get into coaching candidates in depth right now in October. I think we're 2 weeks away from really ramping that up. That's my opinion. I know it's fun to think about. Certainly cool to have a conversation with dad about. Certainly cool to have a conversation at church about on Sunday morning or at the office water cooler. But really breaking it down, I'm not going to do that for 15 guys. But what I do think is interesting, because the number is smaller, is to consider who LSU is swimming in the water with. Because they've always told you that's so important. And I do think that there's a possibility that this is going to ramp up a little bit. We know LSU's in. We know Florida's in. We know Penn State's in. Those are the top dogs. I'm not going to put UCLA in that category. Florida, LSU, Penn State. All have their huge benefits and their huge upsides, and all have some detractions. And I could listen to an argument for any of them being the best job. I would struggle harder with Penn State, but it is in the Big Ten, which prints money. You do have an opportunity to go there and be the guy who does climb the mountain. Pennsylvania is talent rich. They do have some really good players on that roster right now. They've got money. It's an amazing stadium. Uniforms, my goodness, the uniforms are good. Not that that matters, but just an aside. But I was struggling to call that the best. But I could listen to it, and I could listen to Florida, and I certainly can listen to LSU. But what else could be coming? Well, what about Auburn? Could be coming. I think it is. I don't think it's better than LSU, and it's still tough. I always thought the Auburn job would be a lot better when Saban quit. And it is better than when Saban was there. But Kalen DeBoer's having a big year. I'm not going to take that away from him. Right now, Alabama's ranked 4th in the country. They've won 7 games in a row, 4 over ranked teams. He's not Saban. He's not going to recruit to Saban's level. But he's doing a good job. Their signing class is stacked. So Auburn is good, just has its challenges. Florida State, kind of in the same boat. Not the first fiddle in your state, but good tradition. The conference is fledgling. But with that conference fledgling comes the opportunity to run up a gaudy record. What do I need to do to get to the playoff here? We need to beat Miami. And you got to play with Clemson, who's losing 3 games a year now. Who else scares you in that league? Virginia? Louisville? Georgia Tech? Like, okay, I can play with them. So there's a positive to that as well, if that should come open. And then there's another one that no one's talking about, and for good reason. They're ranked 18th in the country. I'm not here to tell you the 18th ranked team in the country is in a hurry to fire its coach. But let me paint you a picture of the 18th ranked team in the country and why they might be firing their coach. Because right now, the 18th ranked team in the country is 6-2. But they're at Tennessee this week. Not an easy game. They're at Bama in the next game. Not an easy game. Then they play Missouri, who's a top 20 team. May or may not have Bro Pabula. Then they got LSU. That's Oklahoma. If they're 6-2 right now, I think best case scenario, they finish 9-3. And that would not cost Brent Venables his job. 8-4, if you lose to Tennessee and Alabama on the road and beat Missouri and LSU. 8-4, is that good enough to keep his job? I don't know. 7-5, that's got to be fired. And all he's got to do to get to 7-5 is lose to Tennessee, lose to Alabama, and split home games with Missouri and LSU, and you are 7-5. And he will be fired. And at that point, Oklahoma jumps into the mix as well. And that's a really good job. Is it better than LSU? I would suggest no. Is it better than Florida? I would suggest no. Is it better than Penn State? I would suggest no. But are there candidates that might look at that as a place they really want to be? Might it affect your bargaining power at the table with one more hat potentially in the ring? It could. It absolutely could. And while I've said many, many times, like, I'm not here to compare coaches once they've been hired, what they do. Didn't care about Kelly versus Napier. Turns out they did the same thing, basically. But while you're in the process of hiring, that's worth keeping an eye on. And LSU absolutely has to compete with Florida right now. Absolutely has to compete with Penn State right now. I believe you'll have to compete with Auburn. I believe you'll have to compete with Florida State. I believe you'll have to compete with Oklahoma. And I'm just telling you, there aren't enough great candidates to go around for those jobs. That would be, what, 5 jobs? LSU, Florida, Penn State, Auburn, Florida State. That's Oklahoma. That's 6. And you could probably suggest that's 6 of, like, the top 15?
At least 15.
6 of the top 15?
At least.
I mean, certainly Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Like, I could probably get there, but, like, Miami maybe, USC, Oregon.
Those jobs are up there for sure.
Yeah, it's way up toward the top.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be fighting. So hopefully LSU can put an administration together and go hire a coach. That's my sincere hope. If you want my thoughts on that whole situation over the last 24 hours, You can go check it out in our opening segment today. If you missed any of the show to start off today, you can catch that on demand wherever you find your sound. A Hunt on LSU is where you can find our LSU content. Hunt on Saints, where you can find our Saints content. I started the show talking about the governor and his press conference yesterday, as well as his appearance on Pat McAfee's show today. That was the top of the show. Then I talked about LSU's running game, went on the field. So if you're not interested in all that, not in the political game, but you like to know about LSU's football team, talked about Frank Wilson's quotes and how they're planning on running the football. And I talked about that at 1:15. Saints talk as they get ready for the Rams. That was at 1:30, and then close things out talking about who could be hiring coaches here in the next 2 months. We got a lot to get to in hour number 2. 20 minutes, Chris Blair talking Tigers. 35 minutes, Luke Johnson talking Saints. We will kickstart hour number 2 when we come back. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Sagrera Farms and that premium Angus beef.
The Hunt Palmer Show.